Hey everybody, this is GGB. We're going to be getting into our one and likely only NFL video, but I always do it. It's my NFL playoff picks. I'm really excited. to get into the NFL. Oh, football's back, baby. Woo! We went through some rough months, right? June to August, it's a dead season for sports. Us sport fans are heartbroken during those times, but they're back. We get the NFL, we get college football. There's not a better time of the year. There's just really not. We get to watch college football, NFL. We get Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday football, all in a row, baby. Woo! There's no better feeling in the entire world, but I got to get into it. 14 teams I think are going to make the playoffs. I'm going to list all 14, reason why I think they're going to make the playoffs, and then I'll talk about the teams that I left out and why I left them out. And then you can argue with me in the comment section below. I don't care. I think it's fun. Everyone's going to have different opinions on who they think is going to make the playoffs. It's what makes this sport so great. We don't know what's going to happen. But let's start in the NFC at the 1 seed. I love the Philadelphia Eagles, right? The Eagles were a good team last year. They kind of fell apart at the end of the year, but I think they made some key changes that are going to help them from doing that at the end of this year, right? I love the Vic Fangio hire at defensive coordinator. He's one of my favorite defensive coordinators in the entire league. I think he did a lot of great things with Miami Dolphins defense last year, and I think considering the amount of talent they really have on that defensive side, he did a really good job with the defense. I was surprised they fired him at the end of the year, but I think the Eagles got a phenomenal hire there. I love the pickup of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. That was a big pickup. He was huge in their Super Bowl run 2 years ago now, and I think he's going to be huge again in that secondary. Not to mention the draft rating of Cooper DeJean and the other first-round corner. I forget what his name is, out of Toledo. I think this is big pickups, right? Big pickups in the secondary. And I think that's going to really help carry forward this team into this year, right? I think that's going to help shore up the defense. I love the Saquon Barkley hire because not only does that add to the running game, but you add a really good running back with a really good running QB. It's going to be like Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in Baltimore. Not exactly the same because, again, Derrick Henry and Saquon are a bunch of different runners, as well as Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson, very different running QBs. But I really like that addition there, and it adds to an already dynamic offense with A.J. Brown, right? A lot of reasons to like Philly, but I like Philly as the 1 seed, right? And no team repeats in the NFC East, and so that means the Cowboys probably won't either. So I like the 2 seed. I like the Lions. I understand the Pack's going to be a really competitive team this year. They're going to push them for the division. I like the Lions to be a really good football team this year. The Lions look good. They passed the eye test. The Lions should be just as good this year, and honestly, they should have a lot to play for, right? This was a team that if they don't blow a pretty significant lead in the Niners game, they're going to the Super Bowl, right? And who knows, maybe they win the Super Bowl. It would be their first Super Bowl ever, right? Like, this is a big thing for the Detroit Lions. They're finally a good football team. I think that they're going to continue this thing. I like the Lions to be the 2 seed this year. A lot of great pieces on the Lions offense and defense. The number 3 seed, this one's going to be a little bit contentious, but I kind of like the Rams, right? I understand that the Niners are typically the team in the NFC West, and honestly, they do look really good. But there are a couple injuries that are interesting to me. Elijah Mitchell's a big one, and I know a lot of people aren't going to think that it's a big one because he's a backup running back, but you need someone to spell Christian McCaffrey, and I understand it's the 49ers are going to have guys. They always have guys, but I think that's a significant loss. And I think that also there's just like kind of a curse, right? Outside of Tom Brady and the Bucs for the last 10 years, whoever wins the NFC can't repeat their own division the next year. It happened last year with the Eagles. It happened the year before that with the 49ers, right? It happened a couple years ago with the Rams, right? It doesn't stay, right? Like if you win the NFC, you're typically losing your division the next year. And I think that curse is going to stay. I like the Rams. I think they have a lot of talent on offense. This is one of their last chances of really pushing for something real, right? Stafford getting up there. Let's be honest here. Matthew Stafford has maybe 2 or 3 more good years left in him. This is one of their last real chances to push and maybe make a playoff run, right? And I like the Rams to be that 3 seed. The 4 seed's going to be contentious, and it's because I'm a homer, and I'm always going to pick them, but I like my Saints, right? I think my Saints have some good pieces offensively, right? I think the hiring of Clint Kubiak could be big for our offense. Derek Carr, a lot of people are going to overshadow this, but he was playing really well at the end of the last year, right? He needed some time to get adjusted to that offense, but at the end of the year, he was playing tremendous football. And now, a lot of that you can put on who they were playing, right? They played the Bucs, the Falcons, and someone else to end the year. Not great football teams, right? But Derek Carr was picking apart them. They were good. This was a good football team. I'll say it. This was a solid football team. I like the Saints. I think that, again, the NFC South is the weakest division maybe in all of football this year. But I like the Saints to win the NFC South and get home at least one home field game in the playoffs. 5 seed, I like the 49ers. Yeah, 49ers, I'm like, I don't want them to win the division, but I do think the 49ers are going to be the best team that doesn't win a division. It's going to be like the Eagles last year, right? Although the Eagles did end up losing in the first round last year. Hopefully that'll happen with the Niners. Niners still have a lot of pieces there. Brock Purdy has been playing really good football. You have Christian McCaffrey. You have Brandon Ayuk. You have Deebo Samuel. You have Nick Bosa and Trent Williams and all these great pieces, right? This is a really good football team. I just don't think they win the West. Simply, I know it's like a stupid, superstitious thing, but it has held the same. And I think you get a little bit lazy after you win the NFC, and if you play in a competitive division, you typically lose it the next year. And it's happened for a long time now. I think it continues to happen this year. And the Rams have a competent football team built together in LA. I think the Rams are going to be a little bit sneaky, and I think they're going to steal that division away. And I think the Niners are going to end up as the 5 seed. As the 6th seed, I like the Pack. I really like the Pack. I think the Pack has a lot of good talent. Jordan Love's a really good QB. They ended up sneaking it as a 7 seed last year. I think this is a team, they can make it a legitimate run. I think there's a lot of good pieces to like in the Packers. I'm a little bit worried about that offensive line. I'm a little bit worried about the defense. But if you have a QB, you have a chance. And I think they have a quarterback in Jordan Love. I think that's really going to be a good team this year. And I think they're going to send 2 teams. And then a weird one, I'm going to leave out the Cowboys, and I'm going to put in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to have a strong year. I think this is going to be a really good Bucs team. I think Baker is a solid quarterback, and I like the Bucs to get the 7 seed, right? I think that the Baker and the Bucs are going to be actually pretty good this year. I think they are a team that should be in the playoffs, and I think they're going to actually cause some havoc. I could easily see them giving Detroit a game because they did last year. So then, anyways, the playoff matchups would be the 2 seed. Bucks going to Detroit. We would have the Pack going to the Rams in LA, and we'd have the Niners in New Orleans. I think those are actually some pretty good playoff matchups. I'll run through reasons why I don't think the other teams that I left out. We'll start with the Cowboys. I don't love the Cowboys this year because, again, they didn't make any significant changes from last year. They honestly got worse, and they had a good season last year. I'm not saying they didn't. But I think they're going to play in a lot more competitive division this year, right? The Eagles should sweep them, I would hope. And the Commies, I think, could steal one from away from Dallas. And if that happens, you only get like 3 wins in your own division. I think the Cowboys have a tougher schedule this year. I think there's a lot of teams that can beat the Cowboys. And honestly, the NFC South doesn't play that many hard opponents, right? They play each other, which means if you're Tampa, you get 2 easy wins right off the bat with Carolina. So I think there's a lot of reasons to not love the Cowboys, and I'm gonna fade the Cowboys. I don't love the Cowboys this year. I like the Falcons. Again, I think the Falcons are the Falcons. I understand Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, but I do not believe in the Falcons' ability to win anything significant at any point in history. They never do it, so I'm not going to trust the Falcons. I honestly don't think the Falcons are going to make the playoffs. The Bears are a little bit too early buy-in for me. I think they could be a good team, but it's just like I'm not taking that risk yet. I'm not going to be putting them in the playoffs. First-year quarterback in Caleb Williams. Very rarely happens. Outside of C.J. Stroud, it just doesn't happen very often where a guy immediately comes in and plays super well and gets his team to the playoffs. And he was playing in a not great AFC South. I expect Detroit and Green Bay to be really good opponents. I don't super know if right off the bat Caleb Williams is going to be able to, beat those football teams. And then the NFC West, I don't think there's anyone that's like, I didn't left them out. I mean, the Seahawks, I'm not the biggest believer in Geno Smith, and so that's the reason why I don't think I would put them in the playoffs. We're into the AFC side of things. I like for the 1 seed to be the Chiefs, the team I'm wearing right now. My mom's a Chiefs fan, but I think just objectively speaking, you're looking at it, they have the easiest run, right? They have to play the Chargers twice, the Broncos twice, and the Raiders twice. And if you think about it for just like 1 second, none of those teams are giving the Chiefs any type of threat, right? Like none of those teams are going to do anything. Realistically speaking, I love the Chargers. I think Herb is a good QB, and I think Harbaugh's the right hire for that football team. I don't think they have the pieces there yet. I love Antonio Pierce. I think he's a great hire for the Raiders. I think he's going to make them tough and competitive. That's not a playoff team. I mean, it's just not. Gardner Minshew's their quarterback. Aiden O'Connell. I mean, Like, those are not great options. That's a team that needs to be drafting a QB early in the first round. And the Broncos, same thing. I think Bo Nix should keep them competitive at least, but I don't think this is a playoff team in year one. So I think, honestly, Chiefs get the easiest division maybe in all of the league to play, and the Chiefs are going to get the 1 seed. So I think an interesting one is, who do you pick for the 2 seed? And I think, weirdly enough, I want to go Miami here. I think the Dolphins are going to have a really, really good team this year. They had a really, really good team last year before they fell apart at the end of the year. They just need to not fall apart, right? This is a Dolphins team that I think can legitimately compete for a Super Bowl, right? If they can just keep the path to the playoffs in Miami, right? If you can keep Miami where everyone needs to go, then this team can throw for a lot of yards, and that's what they're built on, is it's a high-flying offense, right? But you need to keep it in Miami. It has to be in Miami. Otherwise, I don't know how you're going to win football games, because you've shown you can't do it in cold weather, because you have to be able to throw the football, and the fact is, in cold weather that normally is windy, and it's going to be harder to throw a football. For the 3 seed, I'm going to get some slack for this, but I kind of like the Bengals, right? Typically a team that goes from last to first. That happens almost every year. And outside of the Bengals, I don't see where that's going to happen. And again, the Bengals are a weird one because, again, they went over 500. They were just in last place in a really tough AFC North without Joe Burrow. And I think having Joe Burrow back, having Slim Shady back is going to be a big boost in their confidence. I think this is going to really help raise their game. And I think I really like the Joe Burrow Bengals to get the 3 seed. And then the 4 seed, I like the Colts. I know this is weird. I really like the Colts. I think they have a really good team built together this year. I think Anthony Richardson, if he is as good as I think he can possibly be, the Colts offense was really good last year with Gardner Minshew. Imagine how great that offense can be with Anthony Richardson. If Anthony Richardson is half the player I think he could end up being. He reminds me a lot of Cam Newton, so hopefully his career doesn't go the same way, but early Cam Newton was borderline unstoppable. I think the same thing about Anthony Richardson. Early Anthony Richardson should be borderline unstoppable, especially in a Shane Steichen offense that is very creative and a very good offense. And I really like the Colts to win the AFC South. I know, because the next team I have is the Texans, and I know everyone's going to bandwagon the Texans. I love the Texans. I think they're a really good team this year, but I think AFC South could be the most competitive division in all of football next year. And I really like the Texans to be a really good football team, but not quite win the division, if you know what I mean. The Texans, I think, are a good football team. I still think there's a couple holes on the offensive line I'm still worried about, right? Those showed up in the Ravens game where the Ravens were able to get pressure on C.J. Stroud, and the Ravens don't even have the most fearsome defensive line. I'm worried about those pieces. I think that some of the defense needed to get better through free agency and in the draft, and I mean, they did add some guys, but not guys I'm like super excited about, you know? I needed a player outside of Dallas Turner to be like a guy, and I'm a little bit worried that they don't have enough like stars in that defense. But I do like the Texans overall. I think they're going to make the playoffs, and I like them as the 5 seed. The 6 seed, I like the Ravens. I understand the Ravens, this is really kind of low for the Ravens, but again, I think the AFC is going to be so competitive this year. There's so many good teams in it. I'm going to leave good teams out of the playoffs, good quarterbacks out of the playoffs. And it's just like, I like the Ravens to get the 6 seed. I like Lamar Jackson. I like that entire offense. I think there's a lot of pieces there, but it's just like, I don't know, because you're going to be competing in the AFC North. There's so many teams that could beat you, and I think that could end up putting a little bit of a damper on your ceiling here. I like the Ravens, but I like them as a 6 seed. And then finally, as the 7 seed, I'm not going to put the Bills. I know a lot of people. I'm looking at my girlfriend, Amber. She's not going to like that I didn't put in the Bills. But, like, the Bills, I mean, like, there's just not much there to think that they're going to be good outside of Josh Allen. It's really all on Josh, right? And to an extent that works, but honestly, I think what I'm going to go with is Jacksonville. I like Jacksonville as a team a lot more. And again, this was a Jacksonville team that was going to win the AFC South. They were competing for a high seed until they completely fell apart at the end of the year, right? And I think a decent amount of part of that was Trevor Lawrence was playing hurt. And if Trevor Lawrence isn't playing hurt, this is a team that can compete at a high level. They added some new receivers that I really like. Parker Washington looks like it could be taking a step forward this year. There's a lot of pieces to like on this team. And honestly, I kind of really like a lot of these pieces. So I'm going to go with Jacksonville. I like the Jags to be the 7 seed. I know a lot of people are going to be upset that I didn't include Cleveland or New York or Pittsburgh or was another team? It's really all of them, or Buffalo. Let me know in the comment section below what your 14 teams are in the playoffs. And we'll see who's more right at the end of the year. I normally miss on a decent amount of them. I had the Bears last year, so that was a massive fail. But I think my teams are going to be good, so we'll see. Everybody, this is GGB saying adios amigos, and stay tuned for college football coming out soon.